The Houston Astros have built a reputation of taking draft picks and turning them into Major League Baseball stars. Well, today we sit down with Jay Sirianni of Sam Houston State, the head baseball coach, to tell us more about the Astros first-round pick, Walker Janek, on this edition of Locked On Astros.
Janek Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Heisman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chansey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros. We hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Heisman. You can find me on X at Eric Talkstros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Don't forget to make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check out the Locked On Astros podcast. Become an everydayer. Go and hit that little red button down there that says subscribe and make us your first listen wherever you listen to your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. It's the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get the fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. Brett, when you're not getting excited about all the draft pick signing, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on X and on Facebook, and Back to the Bullpen on YouTube, X, and on Instagram, where I'm always positive, always Stros. And we got a special guest with us, Coach Jay Sirianni from Sam Houston State University, head baseball coach. Coach, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be on it.
Well, I know that we have the Astros hopefully will be signing one of your former players. We'll talk a lot about him today, but you're the head coach over at Sam Houston State University. And how long have you been doing it?
Well, I've been at Sam now for 10 years. I've been the head coach for 5. Been here a long time and really fortunate and lucky to still be here and really enjoy my time here.
So, Coach, let's just cut to the chase, because a couple years ago, you had the opportunity to see Colton Cowser go in the first round. Now you have the Astros select Walker Janek, first round, 28th overall, Buster Posey Award winner. How does that make you feel as a coach? 2 first-round picks out of your program, and the only school in Texas that can tout that in the last 4 years.
Well, it's always exciting. One, we're lucky to have pretty good players, and then 2, you're honored and just fortunate to coach guys that, 1, love the game and had a chance to come in and play as freshmen. I think that's always the biggest piece, and they're talented. So a lot of times coaching is just getting out of the way too and helping them along the way.
I know in 2024, y'all had a 34-24 record. In the conference, you were 13-11. What was the biggest part of your success to last season?
Well, I thought we had a strong pitching depth. I wouldn't say, we had 2 other guys on the pitching staff sign free agent deals in the draft as well, but we had a lot of depth on the pitching side. And then Walk was a big piece to this thing. I mean, he kind of drove the train offensively, and but really, for us, it was kind of a transition year, Conference USA for us. It was our first year there.
Right.
We knew we were in for a challenge, and, it was a tough year, but I thought those guys, we did a really good job of just kind of holding on and figuring out ways to win games. But our pitching depth was kind of a big piece for us all year.
Coach, we'll get to Walker more specifically in the second segment of this program. But I want to really focus on you and what you have built your program around, because I've had the opportunity to interview Vanderbilt's head coach, U of H, several coaches, Texas State, and it seems like every coach has their own philosophy, has their own vision. For you, what are one of the main things of your, or pillars of your coaching of your program, what you're looking for in players in developing these guys? Because they come to you, some of them come to you real raw, some come to you talented. So what are one of the hallmark things that you use and that you look at to build your program and build a successful for these young men?
Well, I think the first thing is it starts in the recruiting process. It starts by getting to know the kid. Just understanding what makes him work or tick. But we look for guys that obviously you take the tools and you set those off to the side. Those are the easiest parts to kind of evaluate. But the second side is the families. You get to know them as kids, their families. Most of our guys are from very hardworking families. They've understood, the price it takes to be successful in anything that they're doing. That's one side. The other side is just a work ethic. Just, do they like to work? Do they enjoy the process of trying to get better as players? And then really the last one is a passion. Do they love the game? We ask a lot of our players. We ask a lot from them, from a time, from an investment, from a work ethic side. And if you don't have a passion for it, it kind of gets exposed pretty quick. So for us, it really starts in that recruiting process. You take the tools and all that. Obviously we have to know that side of it. But getting to know the kid and building a relationship with not only the kid, but the family and just knowing where and understanding where they come from has really been kind of a staple of what we do in the recruiting process. And really, we had one kid from out of state last year, and he went to a junior college here in Texas. So our recruiting base is really within about 150, 200 miles of Huntsville. And so the common connection with all these guys. And, don't try to find them on the weekends. They're out at a fishing hole or beer blind or whatever. So they got to have a passion for the game, and they've got to love to work, and they've got to love to compete.
To go off your recruiting question, I know that Joe Espada, let's say Walker is drafted, he's signed, he plays with the Astros, he's invited to spring training. At some point, he probably interacts with Espada, and then he stays with the Astros for the 6 years, whatever it is that he's under the Astros control. So it's a little bit different in the college realm. You only see these guys maybe 2 to 4 years, maybe 5 years for some of them. But what is it like building these relationships and then seeing some of them go off to play college and some of them go off to just do other things outside of baseball?
Well, I mean, ultimately, our job as a coaching staff is to pick up where mom and dad have dropped them off, right, and develop them as men. That's number one for us as a coaching staff. The second part is to get every drop of ability out of them, right? And those are all challenges. But wherever guys start, to me, that's the most rewarding part, is being able to watch these guys walk off and go play professionally or go be an accountant, whatever it may be. And staying in touch with them and letting them know, or them letting us know they're having kids or getting married. And the relationship for us continues long past the time that they're here. And I think that's kind of the more rewarding side for us is, I was talking to one today he was saying he's old, he's 26. I was like, you're nowhere close. And so like that to me is kind of the rewarding side of this. But the relationship, there's all different forms of that. There really is. But ultimately, it's to make sure they're ready to go be productive in life long beyond baseball. And whether it's Walker or Colton that's in the big leagues now, they still haven't had to grow up. They're still playing a great game, the greatest game ever. They're nowhere close to having to grow up. It's us that have real jobs. So that's kind of the fun part.
This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Go to the site or download the app today. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always wanted to secretly learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities: New York, Boston, L.A., Seattle, Pittsburgh. Are they a rival? I don't know. They're playing us soon, but it doesn't matter where you're going, because as the season continues, you've got to get out of town. You've got to go watch your teams play or your rival teams play. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this season. So the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rival's city. So book today at Booking.com on the site or the Booking.com app. Booking.yeah. Go to FanDuel.com and check out the amazing site that is known as FanDuel. look, sports are not sporting like they used to. We know that there's not as many out there. Playoffs for many leagues are over, but baseball is still in season. And if you feel like you can't find anything to bet on, you can dream up bets anytime you're in the mood, anytime I'm in the mood. So this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with the Booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. Look, this weekend, we've got Ohtani and Jordan. Who knows what's going to happen? Will the ball stay in the ballpark? Again, head to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I've actually heard of the reputation of your school. I've heard that you guys are about, taking young men and turning them into men that go in and be productive members of society. As a couple friends of mine actually have their sons heading your way to Sam Houston State from Clear Springs High School. And I know that they've had nothing but great things to say about your program. So it's not just about producing major leaguers, but making these men ready for life after. I'm reminded of Steve Trimper's conversation with us, who coached Jeremy Pena when he was at University of Maine.
Yeah.
And Geronimo, he said when he dropped him off, he said, I'm giving him to you good, but your job is to make him better. And so there's a big trust factor with you, with the parents, and with these kids.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, but it's the rewarding challenge. That we understand every guy comes in with goals to play in the big leagues or be a draft pick or whatever it may be. But I think where the relationships really build are having those hard conversations about a class, a girlfriend problem. I mean, I feel like I should have a doctorate in psychology, but that's the rewarding part of this. And we joke with our players a lot. Rule number one is overcome the coaching. And I think if we understand our ownership and mistakes, and we're all human, but we're in it together. But yeah, it's always fun. There's never a dull moment around here.
So with somebody like Walker, when you recruited him, where did he sit in terms of high school players, and what was the process like to get him to come play for Sam Houston?
Well, it was kind of a weird deal. It all started, the recruiting process started during COVID when we weren't allowed to go on the road.
Okay.
So, we'd heard from summer coaches, the guys that we trust and those kind of things. And Coach Smith, who is now the head coach at Tarleton State, he was our recruiting coordinator at the time. And, so we were watching a lot of video of Walkie at that time, and we could tell he was a baseball player, number one. First and foremost, yeah, he's a catcher, but man, he's just a talented baseball player. I actually told him he can come back on alumni day and play shortstop for us whenever he wants, because that's really what he wanted to do. So we'll do it in an alumni game. But the process is, again, getting to know mom and dad and the family. And then once he got here, it was like, all right, we've got something here that, again, we don't want to get in the way of. How can we just navigate this thing and coach him up as we go? But it was fun. It's each recruiting story has like its own monster, so to speak. But his was a weird one. He was really never here until he'd already signed and everything before he came on a visit, just because of the COVID and all that goofy stuff.
So tell me on the improvement of him as a backstop. I mean, his final year, he wins a Buster Posey Award. That's not just something you fall into. That's something you earn. And that seems to go along with the work ethic that you talk about. Talk about the process he's been through, or maybe your coaching staff put him through to get him to that point. Although he was a great recruit, or a guy you were looking at. Tell us about that process of him becoming from a freshman to boom, Buster Posey Award winner, then first round draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's a cool story. He always had a really good, I guess, drive to be a good receiver, to be a good catcher. He always took pride or still does in stealing strikes. That's kind of the scary thing now for you big leaguers is the automated strike zone. Nobody wants it, but he took pride in that. But the way he would work, his freshman year, it was just kind of surviving through bullpens. He catchers catch a lot of them, and he'd kind of survive through those. And then sophomore year, he'd start to, take a little pride if he clanked one, it was like, dang it, that can't happen. And by the time his junior year, it was more of, Walk, what do we need to do today? And he's like, I'm not real good on the fastball to my glove side. I got to get under that better. And so we would actually design some bullpens just so he could work on that. But the ownership in his career defensively was always there. Offensively, he's always had power. I had a lot of it as a freshman, but he would chase. He'd chase pitches, and because he thought he could hit everything. And I think that's what good hitters do. They think they can hit every pitch, and so he started to understand the strike zone better. He started to understand and be comfortable hitting with 2 strikes and being able to know what to go to the plate looking for, how guys have pitched him the at-bat before, or how he's pitching current guys. And I think it's just from experience. A lot of it was him going out day in and day out, just trying to get better at what he was at his craft. And he took a lot of pride in it. He was always one of the first guys here, usually waiting on somebody to feed a machine. He was always one of the last ones to leave the bullpen if he needed to, because somebody was working on a breaking ball. But the catching side was pretty much very natural for him. He's made it look pretty easy. We're in trouble because whoever we have coming in from here on out, I don't know if we're going to have that again.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask a little bit later, but I know some of our listeners may know the answer to this, but we've seen it in movies. You're playing a game and somebody in the dugout says, oh, there's a scout from so-and-so, the Astros, there's a scout from Braves in the stands. How do you curb the kids' excitement so they actually focus on the game and not just try to overperform just to impress the scouts and just be who they are, to focus on the game instead of just trying to put on a dog and pony shows, as they say in education, because Brett and I are both teachers.
I guess first off, there's a lot of professional scouts at our place. They're going to figure out our pitching rotations, and they're here a lot. So our guys we've had them come in and speak to our team and just understand how challenging and how demanding the draft is right now and all of that. So our guys understand some of that. They're used to having them around, whether it's even through the high school seasons and stuff. But for Walk, I think when he was in the Cape Cod League after his sophomore year, he was used to being evaluated by them all, but the entire team was as well. Both Colton and Walker, when they were here, everybody knew why 35 or 40 of these guys were here day in and day out. So it took them a little while to get used to that side of it, but we focused more on, whether it's our players or our coaching staff, just controlling what they can. Just control that. And, you can hit a ball hard and still get out 7 out of 10 times, they control what they can. And that's just playing hard, being competitive, and show their work ethic, show the way that these guys go about their business, because the good scouts will notice those things. The good scouts notice that you can go 0 for 4, but you have 4 really good at-bats and you just don't have anything to show for it. So stay off of those results. That's the biggest thing that we try to tell our guys, which is hard.
No, yeah. And even the pros do it. We see a guy that's as great as Jose Altuve. You can tell when he's pressing. You can tell when Jordan's chasing. Even the best players do it. So if the best players are prone to it, a developing player surely will. But you like that tenacity, like you talked about, wanting to swing at everything. I remember back in the day when my son was in the first year of kid pitch, which is, if you can get through the first year of kid pitch as a parent, that is almost a miraculous sign from God, because you want to talk about 34 walks in a single game. It's really horrible to watch. But sometimes you have those kids that will never walk because they will swing at everything because they just want to hit the ball. And that's the drive you want. Now, can you speak to what his relationship was like with the pitchers? Because I know in baseball, it's key to have a battery mate that the pitcher trusts. And how did he handle his relationship with the pitching staff?
Well, first off, he knew them all off the field. Pitchers love to play golf, right? They're notorious for that. Well, the pitchers were always inviting Walker to go play golf. I don't know how often he played, but they were always wanting him to go. And but he knew him off the field, which is always a good place to start. I think the second part for our pitching staff was they could trust him. If they threw a bad pitch and it didn't go where it was supposed to go, Walker never made a big deal out of it. It was just like, all right, well, that, so you never saw him sweat. The moment was never too big for walk, which allows the pitchers to feel like it's never too big of a moment. But he was down there with them in the bullpen. Our weekend guys, they kind of have a scripted days of throwing bullpens, and Walk would catch those guys. He would spend those time with those starters. And then anytime our relievers that hadn't been on the slope in a while, if those guys that, if he needed to catch him, he'd come down. He wouldn't catch the whole pen. He'd maybe just catch 10, 15 pitches with them. But, he wanted to make sure he knew what each guy's breaking ball would do or their fastballs. And he'd spend time with them. He'd always sit by him in the dugout. If he wasn't going to hit that inning, he's usually sitting right there, pitcher on the top shelf of the dugout, walk you down on the bottom, just getting something to relax. But anytime I'd go down there, Walk was usually saying what I was about to say. So.
This episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. Shop Supply House for all your plumbing, HVAC, and electrical needs at SupplyHouse.com. It's a reliable way to order everything you need. An easy-to-use website that is packed with helpful resources, the latest product info to help you get the job done right. So shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. Join thousands of trade pros already benefiting from the free membership at supplyhouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com.
So to kind of continue off what you're saying about Walker kind of making that relationship with the pitcher, I know that at the big league level, there's a lot of analytics, like a lot of preparing ahead of time, game planning, especially with the starting pitching. Is there a lot of analytics? I know college, there's a lot of players changing over the years. Do y'all use a lot of analytics during a game?
Well, yeah, we have all of that stuff. As a coaching staff, we probably use it a little bit more than what the guys get.
Okay.
Walk would always take, we have a scouting report meeting either the day before or the morning of the game or, right before a Tuesday night or whatever. He'd usually sit in there. I would call pitches more times, probably just to let me feel involved. He would let me know if he didn't think that was a good idea. Like, that's not the pitch to throw. But he would sit in there, and really the biggest things he wanted to know was who was going to bunt, who was going to run. The rest of it was kind of him and I would go back and forth quite a bit through the course of a game, whether through body language or eye contact or whatever, guys getting off the plate or those kind of things. But where he would use the analytics would be after the game. He would want to know if the 2-2 pitch to so-and-so in the fourth inning was a strike. It would bother him that one wasn't called a strike or something. So he would want to know those things. But as far as all the other stuff, not too much.
So, Coach, just going off of your program, the analytics, different things like that, college sports has changed. With the NIL deals, you got so many different variables now. How has that landscape changed for you guys as a baseball program? Or despite changes, have you guys been able to stick to what you do and what you haven't wavered just because things are different and scenarios may change where transfer portal, things like that?
Well, obviously we have to adapt a little bit, and it's ever changing. I mean, something came out yesterday on Twitter, and here I was talking to compliance a minute ago about a different crazy idea, and they've finally told me to let me chew on that for a while. So we're always adapting from that side of it. I think where we sit at Sam Houston State, we'll still continue to look for our kind of players. We call them OKGs, our kind of guys. And what that's going to look like, you still got to start with chasing what you want. And then if that doesn't work, you're going to have to adapt. But it's a different world, that's for sure. But I do think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be the talent level of baseball. College baseball is at its best spot it's ever been in. I've been in it for 20-some years. And as far as ability and talent, the passion and fan bases and all those things, it's at its all-time greatest. And so that's fun to be a part of that. We just have to adjust on, the type of player, the amount of players we can recruit, all those kind of things, how they're going to scholarship them. But that's ever changing, and I think that's just kind of the name of the game today.
All right, I want to ask one more question about Walker Janek. Let's say he makes it to, hopefully he makes it to the Astros. What can you tell Astros fans? What type of player can he be overall once he reaches the big leagues?
I would say first and foremost, he'll do whatever it takes to win. He loves to win. Anything that we threw in front of him, baseball-wise or off the field stuff, he found ways to win. He loves the competition side. He's very steady Eddie. He doesn't get too excited about much. He doesn't get too down on much. But just know that at the end of the day, the win for the team is probably the most important thing for him. He's more than fine going 0 for 3 if we win. So he's highly competitive. He's talented. I mean, that's obviously if somebody takes a guy in the first round, the ability is there. But the winning side, he's a great teammate. With us all too often, your best player's kind of untouchable, so to speak, in the clubhouse, but not Walk. I mean, he was one of the guys. He'd give the grief and he would take the grief. And so he loves winning. That's, to me, is always the sign of a guy that has a future in this, when he can put a team ahead of himself. And when he does that, he did it for us for 3 years.
That's awesome. And, some people would call that like a quiet confidence where, the kid walks in the room, who he is, but at the same time, you feel like you belong there with him. Now, have you had an opportunity to ever attend any games where former players have made it to the big leagues? And, what's that like? Even if you haven't been, seeing them on TV and go, wow, I remember when that kid was scrapping through his sophomore year, and look at him now,
Yeah. I can only tell all the stories, right?
Right.
One of those. I've been fortunate enough to have a few guys get to the big leagues. I've never gone. Colton was down in Houston I guess that was June, wasn't it?
Yeah.
My 9-year-old had an all-star game, so I went to that instead.
Well, that's important, Coach. That's important.
Yeah. I mean, last weekend I was in Dallas recruiting. Cowser was in Dallas with the Orioles. I made it all the way back to Buffalo before I went, man, I probably could have went to the game last night or tonight. I hope, I guess as a coaching staff, we hope they know that we love them. We'll do anything for them. That's their time. I always kind of joke with them. I don't go hang out at the dentist to go watch him do his job. So
true.
They've got a job to do, and we'll do anything for them. And I hope they know that. But we're also not the group that calls and goes, hey, you're in town. Can we get tickets and hang out with you? Yeah. they have enough people pulling at them, and
I can imagine.
to me, it's more important that they're more comfortable coming up in October or November and telling stories and hanging out with our guys, and because they're always welcome here.
So my final question is, when does recruiting season start, and what do you kind of look for in future Bearcats?
Well, recruiting never ends. It's literally the bloodline of your program. It never stops. We're not allowed to go on the road starting in November to about March 1st. So that's really when we're not. But the phone calls, the visits, all those things, it never really stops. And again, we're just you try to identify guys that fit what we look for, and that's playing hard, having tools, come from a great, hardworking family that have a passion for this game. This game's really hard. At whatever level you play it at, it's can you handle the ups and downs and come back tomorrow wanting more.
Thank you, Coach. We do appreciate your time. I mean, this has been a great insight, and I really hope that people that are watching this have students or have kids that are looking to play baseball beyond high school, and maybe this shines some light on the Bearcats that maybe people didn't know. And so, we thank you for your time. We're definitely cheering for you this next season. You've got a new fan in me. I'll definitely gonna back the Bearcats. Maybe I can even get up to Huntsville and watch a series or two.
Yeah, if you come, you're gonna have to take BP.
Oh, hey, I'm in. I mean,
that's just kind of how it. Okay. Anybody and everybody's available to take BP. So come on.
Hey, as long as it's against one of the older pitching coaches and not an actual college arm.
Well, I'm left-handed and it's a low slot, so I can hit your bat. You just swing and I'll hit it.
Awesome. Hey, did you see that infielder or outfielder that threw 33 miles per hour in that major league game yesterday? That's what you need, Brett.
There you go.
Hey, we can do it. We can dial it up.
Hey, you know what, Coach? I am accepting the invitation. You just need to give me a date on the calendar. I'll be there.
Sounds good. We'll get that schedule out here pretty soon, and you name the day.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you, Jay, once again from Sam Houston for joining us. Hopefully, Walker will be signing with the Houston Astros pretty soon. We can celebrate that. But thank you for joining. Good luck to your Bearcats, and hopefully you can join us again at some point. Guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go and subscribe to us. Make us first listen, Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, and we will see you later. Go Astros.
Go Astros.